by listening with rapt attention to the pure teaching, of course, through words, through language. These are pointers. But it points to something that you know that you are. So a pointer is enough. A point, because we know what it's all about. So when we hear the truth, it already resonates deep within ourselves. But if you don't have shama, that inner tranquility, if you don't have viragya, if you don't have viveka, if you don't have this inner fire, it will not work. So therefore, you should be the adhikari, the qualified disciple seeker. So do not underestimate the importance of this twelvefold path. Om. Welcome to this morning's satsang. I would like to come again on the same subject, the Vedantic approach, Nididhyasana. Actually, it is a threefold approach. We have seen that Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasana. You cannot separate the three. It's not like three distinct steps. It's one. So, you know what is the meaning of these words. Shravan is the hearing. Hearing what? The shruti, that which has been revealed. So it comes historically in the form of the Upanishads, the essence of the Vedas. This is pure truth. And of course, you don't have to depend on this old formulation. A modern formulation will do, by a modern sage, like Sri Ramana Maharshi. So it's a rapt listening. And Manan means reflection, deep reflection on that what you have heard. And Nididhyasana, that is the Vedantic meditation. We'll revisit this term. But what is important to understand? You see, in this direct approach, because the first step is enough. You don't have to go into the Manan and the Nididhyasana. Just by hearing the truth, you may awake on the spot. Instantaneously. It's plenty enough. Why? Because moksha cannot be gained. Moksha is our natural state. We are ever free. Nityam mukta. You cannot attain that. You cannot reach it. You are free from any bondage whatsoever. So if you are already free, what prevents you to see clearly the truth? Of course, the mind. Now, this is a very fast track, very direct, but it takes quite a time to be ready to walk on this path. You need to be a disciple. What is the meaning of discipleship? So the term in English comes from the Latin. The Latin comes from the Greek. The Greek comes from here. It means someone who follows another in order to learn. In order to learn. Now, can you follow? You see, to be able to be a follower in that sense, you need already some qualities, some disciplines. You need to be the adhikari, the qualified disciple. Without these qualities and disciplines, it will not be successful for you. The Shravan, you will hear 100 times the truth coming from so many sages, on YouTube even. It will make no difference for you. You see? So you need to be ready. And only this discipline, the prerequisites, will prepare you. So what are the prerequisites? So we call it sadhana, chatushtaya, sampati. Sampati means the accomplishment. Chatushtaya, the fourfold sadhana. The fourfold sadhana. First step, vivek. We have seen that. You need a clear discrimination, discernment, to distinguish the truth and what is untrue, the real and the unreal, the permanent and the impermanent. You need that faculty to discern. The second step, vairagya, dispassion. It's not that you need to be completely dispassionate. It's not possible without enlightenment. And even if you are enlightened, still attachment may be there due to the residual vasanas. Moksha will not be there. So, vairagya, dispassion, essential on any spiritual path, from any school, from any religion. Detachment. You need to be detached from the worldly realities. As long as you are entangled to the worldly phenomenal realities, you are not ready to go in the transcendental truth. The truth transcends this samsara. You will be stuck here in this samsara and you suffer life after life. So you need this vairagya. We have seen that over many satsangs. How you can increase the vairagya by true understanding, by deep reflection on all your experiences. Those you remember, you cannot remember your past life experiences, but they are there in your subconscious mind. But it's enough if you remember what you have learned in this very life. That's enough, because it's only a repetition from life to life. We go from life to life into the same experience and the same suffering. So, experience will not do, but learning from our experience will make you free. Experience only repeat themselves, but we don't want to learn from them. Then we go into the same schemes. So, vivek, vairagya. And then we have the shatka sampati. So this is called the 6 qualities or virtues. They come together. They are comprised in this third step, shatka sampati. You find this list everywhere. You can go on Wikipedia. You can, they come several times in the Prakaran, the treaties, the handbooks for the seeker. This is Shankaracharya who made that list. So the 6 virtues. First of all, shama. That means tranquility. You have to be able to come to this inner quietness in your mind. You see, it is the same in all traditions. It is essential in Buddhism, shamatha. Vipassana is not possible if shamatha is not there. That is a condition. That is the prerequisite. So someone who walks on that path will spend years to come to this inner tranquility. Only then, you see, you can hear the message, because the mind is not interfering. It's not projecting anything. It's direct transmission. When you hear the truth from a teacher or when you read it, it's direct. There's no obstruction. For that, the mind should be quiet. Shama. Dhamma. So Dhamma, that is self-withdrawal from what? Of course, from the senses, the sense objects. Dhamma. And then you have this quality uparati, because it's very close to pratyahara in the yogic path. That means you need to withdraw from the objects of senses. Dhamma means withdrawal, self-withdrawal. You need to introvert. You need this, you need to be able to extract yourself from the countless distraction. You have to come from the extroversion to the introversion. But uparati, you need to withdraw from the objects of senses. That is so important. Then titiksha. Titiksha means forbearance, patience. Indians are very patient, but it's very difficult for foreigners. But for me, it's very difficult. But over the years, 25 years now, I've become a little bit patient. But in the beginning, I was so much impatient. So patience is very difficult in the West. Very difficult. So titiksha is most important on the spiritual path. You cannot skip the steps. Step after step. So many challenges will come. You have to bear that. Titiksha. Shraddha means faith. If you don't have a strong faith in the teachings, a strong faith in your master, a strong faith in this life, grace, God's grace, how can you walk this path? Because it's a path of dissolution. We need tremendous faith. And then the last one, samadhana. Samadhana, we have seen this word many times. What does it mean? It was the same like yesterday I mentioned anusmriti, remembrance. Remembrance means collectedness. Smriti is remembrance. Anusmriti, collectedness. That means that capacity to withdraw within and to contemplate and to abide. You can translate that by abidance also, with one-pointedness. So concentration, yes, but you see samadhi means concentration. Samadhana is more like the collectedness, and the mind is recollected inside and focused. That is samadhana, this focusing. And of course, in the writings, the authentic writings of Adi Shankaracharya, it's more about samadhana and the equivalent terms than about samadhi, the yogic samadhi, which is a state of absorption. Never in the writings of Shankaracharya he gives importance to the yogic samadhi. You will say, well, but if you read the Vivekachudamani, it is there. Clearly. But it was not written by him. So that is important to know which are the authentic writings of Adi Shankaracharya. Because it's like in any tradition. There have been lineages, and they attribute their work to the great teacher, the great acharya of their lineage, because that will give more authenticity. People can, trust, because it is the great Shankaracharya who wrote that. So it's not that it is away from his teachings, but you have other influences. Like here, in the Vivekachudamani, you have definitely an influence from the yoga tradition, yoga of Patanjali. Definitely. Because it came much after. We know that. Like Adi Shankaracharya, it is like, let us say, the 8th century. And Patanjali, that is the 2nd century, before our era. So you see there's a huge gap. So everyone knew about the teachings of the Yoga Sutras. If you go to the pure teachings, then you don't find any emphasis on the yogic samadhi. Because it's not the path of Advaita. Advaita is saying that you are free, you are the self. So how come that you don't see it? Remove the obstacles in order to see. And how we remove these obstacles? Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana. This is the way. And the preparation is the fourfold sadhana. So we saw the third limb, that means the 6 qualities and virtues and practices. But then the last one, the fourth one, is mumukshudva. Mumukshudva is the intense, burning aspiration for liberation. If you don't have that burning inside, if you don't burn for moksha, for truth, in the same way like if you don't burn for God, then you may not succeed on this path. It will take a long time till you come to the inner fire. So your choice has to be radical. You see? Don't compromise, otherwise you don't succeed. You have to be radical on this. Don't get stuck in this samsara. Do what you have to do, but remain detached. Disentangled, huh? You mentioned yesterday, Deepak. Don't be entangled in anything of this samsara. Now, let us come to the triple approach. You see that if you put the sadhana chatushtaya sampati, that means you have 4 steps, but the third one comprises 6 qualities and disciplines. That means 3 plus 6, 9. So that you have 9 limbs, plus Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasana, 3. It means 9 plus 3, 12. This is a 12-fold path. Well, that's helpful to remember, for you to remember, like a memo, but that is because we call the path of the Yoga Sutra the Eightfold Path. Ashtanga Yoga. Right. And the noble path of Lord Buddha, it is also the noble Eightfold Path. You see? So then, out of a little pride, we say, well, we have the 12-fold path. But it's good to remember. So remember it's not important the label 12-fold. Remember, what are the limbs? And we should practice that. That is the most important. You see, it's like a little memo. Okay, 12. Don't forget 1. You have 12. So the last 3, for which you need to already qualify for the 9 first limbs. Otherwise you cannot. It's like in the yoga path. You need the first 5 to qualify for the last 3. The antaranga, the inner limbs. Because now it becomes very serious. And that is dharana, concentration, dhyana and samadhi. So these 3 require the first 5. So in the same way, on the Vedantic path, you need the 9 first limbs, if I'm okay with my calculation. So that you can start with full success the 3 last approaches, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana. Now here there's a lot of confusion about these 3. A lot of confusion. Because people believe that it's a progression, and definitely after Shravan and Manan you have to go for Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana will take you to Samadhi. It's nothing like that. Nothing like that. Shravan is enough. Shravan is sufficient. if you listen to the teachings, after having practiced and after having qualified for the 9 qualities, disciplines, then Shravan should be enough. By listening with rapt attention to the pure teaching, of course, through words, through language, these are pointers. But it points to something that you know that you are. So a pointer is enough. A point, because we know what it's all about. So when we hear the truth, it already resonates deep within ourselves. But if you don't have shama, that inner tranquility, if you don't have vairagya, if you don't have viveka, if you don't have this inner fire, it will not work. So therefore, you should be the adhikari, the qualified disciple seeker. So do not underestimate the importance of this 12-fold path. Shravan, the listening, the hearing. Hearing or reading, you can read it. So many awakened just by reading one sentence, one word. So reading can be extremely powerful. Hearing, extremely powerful. A word is enough. A sentence is enough. And even at a deeper level, silence is enough. It happens so many times in the divine company of Sri Ramana Maharshi. That divine look was enough. That is how Sri Muruganar awakened. And as I said, this is the beginning of the step, of the journey. The first step, the beginning. It's not the end. Awakening. So Shravan. Everything can come to an end when you hear and you awaken. So Shravan is enough. And that is the magic of the guru-disciple relationship. Now, if you hear, but you can't see instantaneously that, somehow you are prevented to see what is pointed at. A friend of mine, a close friend, he said to me, "You are Brahman." I said, I know. Then how can't you see it? Right now, please repeat slowly with complete faith. I did, but still it was hard. You see the difference between intellectual conviction and direct seeing. That's beyond the concepts. So what we need to do here is by hearing and repeating yourself, by saying it, you can't come to the direct seeing, then you need to come to a state of complete conviction. There must be some unclarified understanding, some doubts, laying deep in your mind. So you need to clear all the doubts. You need to come to this complete clarity of understanding. So that is Manan. If Shravan didn't work, then you need to complement with Manan, reflection. Again and again and again, till you don't have a single doubt. It can take some time. That means you have to reflect on the same again and again and again. from all sides, from all angles. Remove all the doubts. Have a complete certainty so that when you hear or read the truth, you come into the direct seeing, the aparoksha jnana, not intellectual. That is the knowledge, the philosophical knowledge of Brahman. Brahma Vidya, you can say. So, direct seeing through deep, deep reflection. So that is the role of Manan. But it's possible that this will also not work. Why? You see, Jnanis, they come to the awakening through step one, just by hearing or reading. Or it may also come by something that's happening in nature around you, the sound of a bird, the sound of a dog, a flower, a leaf falling. So many things can trigger the awakening, besides the scriptures, besides the teachings. So that is not through teachings. That is also pointing. This is phenomenality, so it's pointing, but not with the words and concepts. So you have a number of awakened beings who come to the awakening through something happening at the phenomenal level, but it's not a teaching, conceptual teachings. And the majority awakened by hearing the truth. Or a silent transmission, like in the case of Ramana Maharshi. Because you imagine such a being like Sri Morgana must be a very pure soul. There were no defilements anymore in the mind. You see, only when, because how to gain the state of Shama? That is only when you have cleansed the mind from all desires and fears. That is, you have reached already almost the manonasha, the destruction of mind. That means the bandha vasanas. So if Shravan, Manan are still not working, then Nididhyasana. So Nididhyasana has been often wrongly translated. People believe that it's also a form of meditation. Because we say, yes, it's a Vedantic meditation. In that sense, yes. But don't compare with dhyana in the part of yoga. Because first of all, it's not a dualistic or a dual form of meditation. You don't have on one side the meditator and then the object of meditation. And the purpose is not to go in a state of absorption that comes next. If you can meditate without any distraction for 60 minutes, and sometimes more, like 3 hours, then you go in samadhi. But once you become used to that, you can go in samadhi in 5 minutes. But for the beginner, if you can remain in the meditative state for 1 hour without a single distraction, then you are ready to go into samadhi. You see, so that is the yogic path. And in Advaita, we don't encourage actually people to go in samadhi because there is a more direct approach. It is just to see what you are. So your knowledge is false, distorted. It's mithya gyan. Some error in your knowledge. So you have to clear that, so that you come to direct knowledge, Atma Gyan, the knowledge of self. So you need to purify something in your mind. So now, with Nididhyasana, we go to a deeper level. And of course, that level is the subconscious and the unconscious mind. And how we do that? By prolonged contemplation. I say contemplation because it's a focusing. It needs one-pointedness. What you have concluded from Shravan and Manan, now you need to contemplate it. And that should be done at the exclusion of anything else. So you keep one thought or one feeling to the exclusion of all other thoughts. Yeah? So this thought is the exclusive thought or feeling. We have seen that, the anti-vritti, the last vritti. Keep that, hold on that last vritti. But you have to do it in a sustained way. It's a prolonged contemplation. It's not like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes then, 15 minutes in the subway, then at the coffee break. No. That you have to sit and do it for a prolonged period of time. Because this will remove what? The pratibandha. See, Sanskrit is so helpful. Pratibandha. Because we don't have these terms, in our Western languages. So, pratibandha. So, what is that? The inner obstacles. They obstruct the clear vision. Because they are there prior to awakening, but they remain after the awakening. That's why, to see the truth, to have this Atma-Gyan, will not give you complete moksha. No. As long as there are residual impressions, these are the pratibandha. And they come in what form? They mainly come in the form of patterns in the mind, habitual patterns. And we have that all the time for anything in life. Shall I give you an example? A Vedantic story. The 10th man. The 10th man. So 10 men had to cross, they were villagers, they had to cross a river. It was monsoon time. The river was frightening because many people also drowned. They knew that. It was a dangerous journey. So they found a reliable man to take them on the other shore and a raft. So they went by a raft. And there were 10. And when they reached the other shore, they had fear that maybe one would have drowned or was lost, so they start counting themselves. And they count 9. Like one said, I will count the group. He counted 9. And then he was very sad. He said, we lost someone. Then another one also started counting. Let me check. He said, 9. So everyone started counting, yes, we are 9. And so they were in deep sorrow. And then a passerby came and said, what's your problem? Why are you so sad? Why these tears in your eyes? He said, we lost one. We were 10, now we are 9. But no, you are not 9. You're 10. I can see clearly. You're 10, you're not 9. You see, and then there was a big smile on their face. Because they were in a mental pattern that prevented them to see what is most obvious. So you have to remove these patterns. So this passerby, he stands for the guru, the teacher. You see, without him or her, how you will manage to remove your old patterns? So it's quite destabilizing to be with a guru, because you see our patterns are deeply anchored in us. So we need to refresh the mind so that the mind will be a great instrument and not obstructive. Right. So the whole process in Nididhyasana is to go at a deeper level of the mind. That is not at the Manan level. Nididhyasana is the deepest level, to remove the deepest patterns in the mind. It has to do with impressions, sanskaras and vasanas. So this will work only if you do it in an uninterrupted way. Nididhyasana is about the removal of the deeper layers of the mind, the deeper patterns, the structures of the mind that create schemes of understanding that are wrong. Then we go into mithya-gyan, this wrong knowledge, false knowledge. So we need to clear that, and it takes time. But you see, now, for the one who awakes, right from step one, Shravan, does it mean that he goes directly in the Jivan Mukti? Means liberation while alive? No. Liberation is a completion. That means you don't come back to the samsara. That is the profound meaning. It's liberation from samsara. As long as there are residual vasanas, impressions in the mind that are related to your identification to body-mind, you cannot go in moksha. So that means somewhere in your mind, in the deeper layer, there is still some knots of identification that you need to remove. So you see, two wrong beliefs. The first one, I am this body-mind. It's deeply rooted in the mind. Deeply. Despite of that, you can go into an awakening just by hearing the truth. Because it means that for you, this barrier created by the mind has already become thinner. And you can jump above it. It's not like the Berlin Wall, during the Cold War. You cannot jump there at the risk of your life, So this is a very thin barrier. So they go into awakening, but the problem is there. Now they have a taste of it. They are in the room. But they still at the inner obstruction. They cannot go into complete moksha. Due to what? Due to these residual vasanas and the pratibandha. So, if Shravan is about the removal of this strong belief that I am the body-mind, reflect deeply on it. And then you come to know that, of course not. And this will be also imprinted in you see, at a deep level. And that will remove, that will dissolve that wrong belief, you see, through deep understanding. So Shravan is to remove this wrong belief that I am this body-mind. Another strong belief. The self, Atman, this pure awareness, pure consciousness, which is Brahman. That self is something other than me. I believe in the self. I'm all for it. The Atma Darshan, I'm all for it. But it's something other. That means I need to go on this journey, and maybe, if my karma is positive, I may. All wrong. You are the Atman. You are that. Ever. Not even from the beginning, because it is beginningless. It's not in time. Body-mind are in time, but what you are is timeless. You are Atman. You are that. You see? And this belief is still there in the deeper background, without even your knowledge in the waking state, but it is there in the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind. You see? And that is your legacy from past lives. That is a heavy legacy, you know, because we carry it from life to life. So how you remove that one, that means the self is other to me, is something else, it is something other, by nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is all about contemplating what? Soham, I am that, I am not this. You see? You are that. There's no distance, there's no journey. It is already attained. You're already enlightened. You see the role, the central role of nididhyasana. Then what is the job, so to say, of the one who has awakened by hearing the truth, by reading some literature? He, she goes into that awakened state. The gates open of the gates of the truth, of reality, that ocean of being presence and bliss. Don't confuse that the bliss of the truth, because we say Brahman is Satchit Anand, and a blissful experience that you reach to a higher state, to ecstasy or samadhi. Nothing to do, because in the bliss of Satchidanand, there is no experiencer of that bliss. It's not experienced by someone. It is not an object of experience. You see the difference? Because you may come out of the Savikalpa Samadhi and you can convey your experience by saying it was indescribable bliss. That means you were there to tell that. You were the experiencer. So that is what? No, that is not Satchidanand. That is, we mentioned that the other day, Anandamaya Kosha. That is the last layer, the subtlest, the threshold of the realization. So when we speak about that Param Anand of Brahman, Atman of course, nothing to do with any phenomenal bliss, or the bliss of higher experiences, visions. Now, the one who awakes is in that state of awakening, but the deeper mind is not yet completely cleansed. Definitely he cannot or she cannot maintain himself or herself in that state. It's not possible. Sooner or later, these deeper impressions, vasanas, will catch you. They will catch you within a short time or a longer time, like 2 years, sometimes even more. But you can't stay there. So you need to go into a deeper purification. So this is important to understand, because don't throw the teachings in the Ganges and don't throw the Guru in the Ganges. You see? Now they are still very precious. They are still very precious. Perhaps even more precious than ever. That means you still have to practice nididhyasana. You have to cultivate this vigilance, this alertness. Be extremely alert of the fluctuations of mind. Don't be distracted. Here you need this one-pointedness. Watch. and practice nididhyasana, that unbroken contemplation, which is much easier now because you're on the other side. You feel immersed in divine presence, unconceivable presence. So it's much easier, but it's not, you see, the end of the practice. So there is now a new sort of practice, post-awakening. That practice is effortless. Because you are already in the direct seeing. So it doesn't require any effort. But don't throw it away. So you see that only the removal of the pratibandha will bring the awakened one, call it him or her a jnani, but it all depends how we define the words, how we define jnani, how we define moksha. If moksha is the completion, that means the realization, the permanent awakening, then definitely we have to acknowledge that there is a gap between the initial awakening and the completion of awakening. That means the steadiness, the irreversibility of awakening. And that is moksha, that is realization. That is Atma Sakshatkar. That is final. You cannot come back. Because that is Manonasha. So the jnani has to be very careful in a way. Well, now he's in that state of surrender, so it's not that he's taking personal decision to protect his awakening. That's not possible, then you will lose it immediately. But you see, it's all very subtle because it's effortless, yet there is a subtle practice needed. And the guidance of Guru. Don't go away from Guru. So it is said in many traditions that after awakening you need 10 years to stabilize the awakening. And that's why don't start teaching. Don't start claiming anything. That is the best way to finish this path of liberation. So you see this path to complete liberation. The first liberation was not complete. The path to complete liberation through Manonasha. The Vasanakshaya, the destruction of all vasanas. The removal of the pratibandha. And that, for that we need also nididhyasana. But now nididhyasana becomes more effortless, spontaneous. But you should not ignore it. So there's a practice after the first practice. It's an effortless practice, but yet there is a practice. There is a discipline, there is a sadhana, a post-awakening sadhana, but very different from the first sadhana. All you need to awake to the truth is to be open to it. That means there should be no obstruction of the mind, no resistance of the mind. So when you hear the truth, then you awake to, because you are that already. So it resonates in you very deeply. And you come to the direct seeing. And for most seekers who come to the direct seeing through the hearing or the reading, there are still inner resistances. And so they have to complete the journey. They have to complete the journey. And that can take quite a time. It all depends because everyone carries a different luggage. For some, the luggage is very light. A carry bag. You don't pay, it's free on board. It's free. But you have to pay for the heavy luggage, the checked in. So the same way. Check first the luggage. And accordingly find your seat on this plane to ultimate realization.